Good day, sir. We are Group C from Class 3309, and today we are going to talk about a challenge to acquiring quality learning during the pandemic, college students' perspective. The researchers have gathered information about the said topic, which is about the education during the pandemic, which is very timely today. COVID-19 has hindered us from entering public facilities, just like school where the students are being molded holistically. With the said virus still lurking around, the education system has thought about a new method to teach the students using online class, modular, and blended learning. But does the new methods help the student acquire good quality education? In this research, the researcher will answer how it affects the students on acquiring good quality education from college students' perspective.
We as a group want to explore the quality of our educational system, especially now that we are experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, we want to discover the important or remarkable outcomes of this form of learning, which are the virtual classes that is through online basis and printed modules that will be provided by the school institutions. Nonetheless, our group is interested in comprehending the effectiveness of this new platform for students. And finally, we desire to see the positive and negative impact of this new educational learning.
COVID-19 is a global health crisis that occurred from early 2020 until the present. The pandemic has caused devastation in the world's learning system, challenging the students' opportunity to learn. The closure of educational institutions and the government's protocol measures to contain the spread of the virus, students have shifted from face-to-face classes to various learning methods as an alternative means of transmitting the information. However, students who pursue their education during the pandemic are having difficulties in obtaining knowledge. Reasons are environment setting, internet connectivity, and lack of resources, to name a few. This issue is experienced by most countries throughout the world, which makes it a global issue. Though despite the circumstances, there are still students who are able to acquire quality learning, but unfortunately, others are struggling to acquire it.
Developing countries like Indonesia and countries in sub-Saharan Africa like Ghana, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria are a few of the countries that are still groping with these new normal modalities. They have one problem in common, which is the poor internet connection, especially to students living in rural areas. Although their government initiates alternative solutions like on-air classes wherein televisions and radio stations are the medium in conducting classes, it is still a challenge as there are households who don't have these things at home. The teachers are forced to home visit their students that will cause additional expenses and time-consuming as well.
Due to pandemic caused by COVID-19, most countries around the globe diverted face-to-face into blended learning, like Africa. Indonesia also struggled in adapting this blended because of poor internet connection that forced the teachers to go home visit their students to review the lessons. This will make additional expenses as well and time consuming for the teachers.
When the COVID-19 started, we switched to online classes, but there are some difficulties having a quality learning in online class. We needed a very strong Wi-Fi connection and a laptop or a phone to do research, activities, and homework. But not all students have those gadgets for online learning. They would borrow, or their parents would have to work hard for those things.
Students are adapting to online classes as a way to acquire quality education throughout the pandemic, and concern about reliable internet connection and uneven access to device arises not just in the Philippines but in other developing countries as well. Given the situation, it's already hard to acquire quality education, but in my opinion, we can learn and absorb Nigeria and Zimbabwe's effort in creating a task force just purely for education alone. Another option is to provide printout modules with high-quality standards, and teachers should also provide personal directives following maximum health arrangement just to make sure that no students will be left behind during these most challenging times.
Until today, this problem has not been eradicated because most of the countries like Indonesia, Venezuela, countries particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, like Ghana, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria are still experiencing problems through this learning system nowadays. Many Indonesians have found it difficult to participate in online learning due to unequal access of technology and internet connectivity. According to the United Nations Broadband Commission, the majority of African countries have the weakest internet access. Fortunately, certain schools in different countries are still fighting in this dilemma in order to deliver the country's best educational system.
In this topic, we have learned that online classes and quality education have the same idea but very different in methods. Anyone can muster a device to attend online classes just to get by. Nonetheless, quality education is still very hard to achieve. From my perspective, face-to-face interaction is very integral in receiving quality education, as this setting has been proven to instill knowledge, as we can get to set our undivided attention to the subject matter discussed during a certain period. However, during this pandemic, we have to resort to online classes and try our best to acquire quality education because face-to-face educational arrangement is still an impractical option.
Learners are given the ability to learn and retain skills and knowledge acquired via purposeful learning. Therefore, the efficacy of a teacher's teaching approach and the materials used to impart the knowledge can have an impact on the student's opportunity to learn. Regardless of the ongoing pandemic and the complication it has caused, students are adapting to the situation to pursue their education and strive to acquire quality learning.
Adapting to this new normal education system may not be easy, as there are a lot to consider like resources, internet connectivity, and so on. But with this global crisis we're experiencing right now that forced our government for the closure of schools, it somehow helped us to still continue learning. It is now a matter of cooperation between the students and teachers to achieve quality education.
Therefore, I conclude that the educational system during this pandemic is quite difficult to all of countries. However, because of the cooperation between the people in the country, it makes it easier. Even though there are still problems, in the society, using the system, especially the online classes, the learning system has still have a positive and negative contribution to all. So school closures give big negative impact to the current cohort of the school. However, we can still able to learn or adapt the situation.
When the pandemic started, our education department has been obliged to find measures to minimize the problem. For many students and teachers in rural and isolated places, some countries causes infrastructural difficulties and poor internet connectivity. Some countries still lack access to the aforementioned infrastructure. However, students, governments, and parents forced to adjust in this situation, but they must all learn to adjust over time.
In conclusion, students couldn't handle the pressure and their mental health could get worse. They may feel heightened anxiety about keeping up to date with their schoolwork. Other teens may experience difficulty concentrating or staying focused. For some reasons, students may find it difficult to receive the extra education support they need to succeed. However, spending a significant amount of time online class can fatigue students.
In conclusion, it shows the negative and positive sides of education during the pandemic. It might be helpful for those people who are working at the same time studying, since it's less time consuming. But some people can't afford the necessary things for the online class setup, like a stable internet connection and gadgets. Those methods might be helpful for you, but what about the others? Will they learn something from it? We must strive for a quality education wherein even the pandemic can hinder the students to receive quality learning. And that is all for our presentation for the final exam.